Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rising Stories Podcast. I'm Corrine Sandifer, your host, coming to you from Nashville. On Rising Stories, we talk with women who are changing their world, women who run their businesses, some women who are writing that awesome book that has been inside of them for years, and women who are encouraging others for the greater good. Twice a month, I sit down with an influential woman to share stories of success, trials, and strength. In celebration of Black History Month on Rising Stories, we are continuing our conversations with women of color who are changing their world. Today, I'm speaking with an influencer who is creating a space for women who are not of color to learn about racial justice and about sisterly love. Marcie Walker has started the popular Instagram account called Black Coffee with White Friends. Marcie began her journey on racial discussions after reaching out to a teacher when her daughter's class began slave debates. Listen to hear the outcome of this slave debates conversation. We also talk about how she began her blog, her Instagram, and what she is doing now to bridge those racial gaps in her world. But before we get started, I want to mention that today's podcast has been sponsored by Barbara Ann Jeter, Realtor. She is a realtor here in Nashville, Tennessee, and I am going to add a link. So if you or someone you know is looking for a place here in Nashville, a great city to live in, make sure that you look her up. Her link will be provided in the show notes as well. If you would like to sponsor a podcast episode of Rising Stories, please send me a message at CorrineSandifer.com. There'll be an information spot for you to fill out there. Also, please take a few moments to subscribe to the podcast and tell your friends about the show. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button there as well. Next week, I'll be sharing more Friday favorites with you, so make sure you are subscribed. Here is my conversation with Marcie Walker. Hi, Marcie. Thanks for joining me on Rising Stories Podcast today.
I'm so excited to be here and just so honored to be invited. So thank you.
I found you on Instagram. I don't even remember. It might have been on Austin Channing Brown's Instagram, but your Instagram name caught my eye big time. And I love the title. It's Black Coffee with White Friends. And I was like, oh, wow, that's intriguing. Like, does she have coffee with people? And so describe the work that you're doing with that.
Well, it's a funny thing. I am an African-American woman and mom, and I have lived in pretty much all white space my whole entire life. And as my daughter is getting older, I realized that I need to say a little bit more about what it is to be a woman and also to be an African-American woman. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to write it down. And so I had decided I was going to do a blog and was talking with my husband jokingly about what would I title it. And I said, well, my life is pretty much just having black coffee with white friends all day long, all the time.
I love that.
And he said, that's it. That's what it is. And I was like, I don't know if I can do that. But I thought I wanted to be provocative. I wanted for it to be intriguing, but I also wanted it to be true because that really is what it is for me. Often I am the only Black person that many of my white friends know. And I am the only Black person in the room having coffee with a lot of white women. And there are a lot of things that I've never said. And so the blog is part letters to some of those things I've never spoken. Mm-hmm. And letters and things that I want to speak to my daughter that right now at 16, she doesn't want to sit down and have conversations about constantly. But in the moment, I want to write about it in the moment as things are happening. And it's part devotional. So it all works back to the fact that we are all part of a bigger image, something in ourselves, and that there's a place of connection, but we have to be willing to see each other as we really truly are.
I love that. I think that you are doing good work because you are sharing not just your thoughts with the world, but also I think you're opening up discussion for everyone. And there are certain places where it's discussion for just a certain race or a certain color. And I love that I feel comfortable when I'm reading your blog posts and when I'm reading your Instagram posts. I feel that you're connecting with, or you're sharing things that hit home for me and that are connectors. Like I'm connecting the dots. Does that make sense with the racial injustice in the world?
I hope so. Yeah, it does make sense. And that's truly my intention. I try not to, I'm not a commentator of culture. I'm not commentating about what is happening in culture, which needs to be done. But I feel like there are a lot of people already doing that. Things are happening and they commentate on that. There are injustices happening and they commentate on that. I think what I want to talk about is the lived experience of just every day. And I think we're all there. I think there's a lot for all of us to learn and grow, and we need each other to do that. And so it's an invitation for white people, Hispanic, Latina, Native people, Asian, to all be invited into the conversation. And for me to also likewise to listen. So that's my hope. I hope that's what people are feeling, at least when I'm sharing that. And I do get letters back from people, emails or comments of what their experience has been. And that's the biggest thrill for me, because it's not one-sided. It really isn't. We all are part of this racial history, and we need all the stories to have it matter and to change the narrative. We can't just go with one story. We can't. At least I don't believe that.
No. Tell me, yeah, and I totally agree with that. And I love that. I love the title of your Instagram handle, and I also, in what you're doing, but I would love to kind of be a fly on the wall to hear what's like a typical conversation that you're having with your white friends or your other, I don't know, your African-American friends maybe.
Well, I learned a lot, first of all, from, I don't know if you're familiar with Latasha Morrison and her Be the Bridge group. That really, I mean, that's my parent company, I guess. Learned so much from her and learned so much from being in a Be the Bridge group. And so what the conversations that we're having that are a little bit different than what you may have in a Be the Bridge group is that I've kind of combined the racial conversation with just the human conversation, what it means to be human. And that I was inspired by Krista Tippett's On Being project. You're familiar with her. But she has a conversations project that anyone can go to the On Being website and download a guide on how to have better conversation, meaningful conversation. So with all that I've learned from Latasha and Be the Bridge, and all that I've learned from my faith, and all that I've learned from Krista Tippett, who I just adore, I've combined into a conversation. So we do talk about race, but we also talk about, what do you feel it is to be human these days? What do you feel it is to be a responsible human these days? What scares you about this conversation that the world seems to be having right now? So it's a little more than just race. It's about just, because we all can answer those questions. We all have the ability to say, for me, this is what it is to be human right now. And for me, this is the responsibility that I feel I need to bear. And that's going to look different from person to person, not from race to race, but from individual to individual.
Mm-hmm. That's good. I love that you are having conversations, you're writing blogs from your perspective. And it's true. If it's not black and white conversations, it's like you're saying, it's human, and there are so many polarizing, things that are, topics that are going on and issues all over, especially now with this administration I feel like has caused some division, or maybe has just shed light on the division.
Yeah.
And maybe it's always been there. And I personally have had blinders on, but I'm just like, wow, these people are coming out of the woodwork where I didn't know, really existed, people that hate and people that are so opposed to just people just trying to be themselves and live. But I love that you are going for it. And how did this get started? This is what I want to know. Like, did you just one day you were like, I need to write about this? I mean, you touched a little bit on it, but did you just say, I want to start an Instagram and I just want to start talking about this issue?
No. No. My husband actually, we were talking last night and he said, and my husband's white and British, so we've had a lot of interesting conversations in our home, but he was saying how funny it was that I had said when we first started dating that I would never be the kind of Black person who would be an advocate.
You said that? That's hilarious.
I seriously said that I wouldn't. I'm not that person, right? And what happened is we were at a event at school. It was like a back to school event where you visit all the classrooms and you find out what your kid's going to be learning. And we were going to this very small Christian university model academy here in Austin, Texas, really small. And my daughter was one of 2 Black kids in her grade and maybe 3 or 4 Black kids in the whole campus. And I was the only Black mom, which was very interesting because that meant that the other kids, either they were biracial or their parent adopted them. Adopted them. So I was the only Black mom. And so I was sat listening to the history teacher, the head of the history department, talk about what they were going to be learning for history in high school. And she happened to mention how they were going to do slave debates and that the kids would have to debate for and against slavery.
Wow.
She kind of went, wait, whoa. That's
heavy.
Really dark day for my daughter. And I hadn't really prepared her for that. And I'm not even sure why they would do that. And I was really just kind of worked up about it. And my husband and I chatted all the way home, and I went online and did some research, like, is this done? And I found that, a lot of schools teach this way, and it's really disturbing to see white children defending slavery, even though it's just for a project.
Yeah, I don't see how that's productive.
Well, I think it's trying to show how. Well, what ended up happening is that I prayed a lot about it because I was so emotional and I was so fearful. I was fearful of being stereotypical. I didn't want to be typed as being overly sensitive as a Black person. I didn't want to be typed as being an angry Black woman. There was so much that went through my head. I reached out to Latasha Morrison of Be the Bridge because I happened to know some mutual people. I hadn't even really met her yet, but I had some mutual friends who knew her. And I said, hey, I just need to know, am I being overly sensitive? And she immediately emailed me back, absolutely not. this is a problem. Mm-hmm. And so I really just had to think, okay, I'm going to go. This is the one thing. This is what I knew. I knew this teacher loved the same God that I loved. I knew that she loved her job and she loved these students and she loved my daughter. So I figured I have to ask why. So I emailed her, I need to know, did I hear you correctly?
Right.
Maybe it'll all just disappear because I didn't hear it correctly. And secondly, why? And so she immediately emailed back, I think we all need to have a conversation. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yes, please, I would love to. So I sat down with her and I sat down with the head of the high school who happened to have just adopted an African-American child. And we sat down and we talked, and I listened to where she was coming from. And she already, when we sat down, me, my husband, and the two of them, she already was like, I see where this is a problem. And she said, I've never taught this class. I've never had an African-American child in my class.
Wow.
So, my daughter would have been, there was a girl who was biracial who was a year ahead of her who hadn't taken the class yet. And then my daughter would have been the first.
Ever
that she would have. And so she immediately was like, and her, she's like, I need to really look at this. And she was perplexed by it, like deeply perplexed by it, that she couldn't see it. And that she hadn't seen it from that point of view. And she told me her history, which was, she's a little older than me. She had grown up in Selma, so she'd seen a lot of racial injustice. She had been raised under the umbrella of racial injustice. So there was a lot that she was just like, I hope and pray that I thought I'd overcome all of that. But here we are, right? And so, brilliant teacher, she was able to redo her curriculum and it was the best possible outcome. But I was still disturbed by all the videos that I found on YouTube and all the strangeness around this topic. And I kind of decided to start talking with the school. So we started a kind of initiative at the school to have more conversations, just a small group of us, concerned parents. And from there, I just started writing. And I always have been a writer, but I was hesitant to do a blog. It's a lot of responsibility. Mm-hmm. And I was hesitant to put more words into an already complicated conversation. But I had not yet seen what I longed for, which was just an honest legacy of what it is and what it has been for a person such as myself, where for whatever reason, I have been in all white school systems, colleges, like majority dominant white culture all of my life. And so what does that look like? What conversations are we not having? And it turned out there were loads that I just never had with any of my white friends because I didn't think that it mattered. And I didn't think that there was any problem with that until this situation at my daughter's school. And I realized that we're missing a key piece of information that could make us all better if we just were willing to have more conversation around it. Mm-hmm. And I also wanted to leave my daughter a legacy. The most important part was that I shuddered at the idea that my grandchild could someday still be sitting in a classroom being taught history that was not accurate or taught it in a way that made him feel less than or
uncomfortable. Yeah.
uncomfortable. It made the children feel uncomfortable. All the kids feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. And so did they ban it, or did they just kind of?
Yeah, she changed her whole curriculum based on that.
Awesome. Yeah.
And we're talking about a stellar teacher, a really savvy, smart woman. And my daughter actually went on a trip to Washington, D.C. with the whole class that is part of her leading. And it turned out to be a great story. There are things that didn't go right at that school for us, and we actually ended up leaving, but it had more to do with my daughter was fast approaching adulthood, and I realized that she needed more diversity, not just in color, but in ideas. And I had her in this bubble. And she was struggling in that bubble because she didn't fit it. She's very a dreamer and very sensitive, very reflective. And she was having a lot of debates with friends at lunch over things over identity. And it was just a very strange time for her. And so we moved to be closer to my job and to a school that would offer her more expression. And she has just bloomed, bloomed.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that's great. I always hear about moms, sometimes they'll come and ask me questions like, do you think I'm thinking about moving my child to a different school because of XYZ, and he or she just doesn't fit in anymore. And I'm like, absolutely, do what you need to do for them, because, and if they're willing, if they're okay with it or they're asking for it, you'll never regret that. You change something, and that's amazing. I want to touch a little bit, Marcie, about what's the future of Black Coffee with White Friends, and what you're wanting, where you see yourself maybe in 5 years, or where you would like to see yourself with this.
Wow, that's a really good question, because it's what Black Coffee with White Friends, it's my endeavor for sure, but it doesn't come without my husband, who's a graphic designer, and just an amazing graphic designer. And we've often talked about different projects that we would like to do that make this conversation easier, just because it's more inviting. So one thing is that we have started having Black Coffee with White Friends literally. So I've been starting to literally post my conversations with friends on my blog, which has been fun to see my friends be so bold. My favorite quote ever with that was one of my friends said, when I asked her the question, what made you afraid to say yes to this conversation, if anything? And she said, well, I don't want to be labeled stupid forever, because I might say. But she went there and she was open and honest. And I think it's been very helpful for other people to know that there are white people who have questions just like they do. And that it's okay to have those questions in the right space and in relationship. And that's the important part, to have the relationship with someone. So we would like to actually take that out on the road. Like we would really like to start going, have people have us into their homes, invite their friends, and for us to lead them through a conversation and what it is to talk about the harder things. Well,
sign me up. You can come to Nashville.
Yeah. That's one thing that we really want to do. And then I have all these beautiful designers that I know. I would really like to do more with children, because I think there is it's a hard place for teachers to teach race. And they're tasked with it because it's in our history. It's woven throughout our history. And so we've been talking about, how do we create a curriculum that teachers can use, that homeschoolers can use, that's just like an additional piece to help teach our racial history, and also to help families identify their own ethnic history in that. And without feelings of shame or guilt, but instead, if necessary, lament and just to forgive ourselves so that we can be better people. Mm-hmm. But it has to be acknowledged. And I think it would be better if we are being honest with our kids and with ourselves as they're growing up and learning more about history, rather than, well, actually, the Native Americans and the Pilgrims were not sat around a table breaking bread, and it was all peaceful forever and ever and ever. But to be able to start to have these harder conversations, but with the right kind of tools, because what a 5-year-old can take in and what a 12-year-old can take in are entirely different things. So that's like my dream project. And I hope in 5 years that we have a whole curriculum that's helping families and helping educators.
Yeah, I think that you would even have a lot of people who have, like you said, have adopted children.
Yeah.
Who are African American.
Because you just don't know what you don't know. There's a lot that I don't know about white culture or Asian culture. And I have people who that I can ask. One of my dearest friends and pastors is Chinese American. And it's interesting for me to humble myself and ask questions, because what his experience is entirely different than my experience. And so we all have learning to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask you a little lightning round section of questions here. So number one is, what's your favorite app?
I love this app called Pray As You Go. It's just this beautiful app of meditations, and they have a daily one. So I do Pray As You Go every day. It's my favorite app.
What does it give you? Does it give you like a Bible verse and?
Oh, it's lovelier than that. Well, first of all, it's put out by British Jesuits, and I'm neither British or a Jesuit, but just to hear the accents of the priests who read the passage and they ask prompting questions, and they always have a beautiful piece of music to go with it. I mean, it's just lovely. And their Advent season, I look forward to it every year. And sometimes I will just play them over and over again on a loop. So it'll be music. They'll ask a prompting question for the day. And then they'll read a passage, they'll ask another question, they read the passage again, and then they send you off for your day. And it's just a bit of peace.
I love that.
Absolutely love it.
What book are you reading? Since we are just audio, no one knows that you are standing in front of, I'm going to describe just a large library of books. It's beautiful, and I want to jump into your space there. But so I know you're a reader. So what are you reading these days?
I just finished a book last night. I just finished a book called The Devil's Highway by Luis Alberto Urrea, and he's a poet, but he wrote this nonfiction book about 14 men who were trying to cross the border, but they all died. Not all of them died, but it turned tragic. And he talks about the case, and he interviews the Border Patrol. He interviews people in the towns, the border towns. He interviews their families. And it's just, oh my gosh. My husband and I both read it because we like to read the same books so that we can talk about them. Mm-hmm. And it's going to live with me for a long time. He's a stunning writer, and the story was so moving. And at this day and time, such an important story. And it's a story that a lot of teachers have used in classrooms to teach high schoolers. and he visits high schools and talks about the story. So I just read that, finished the last page yesterday afternoon, and just sat, just shaking, just in such wonder at how he was able to take this tragedy and bring compassion and understanding to it.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a good book. I'm writing it down.
So good.
What's the best business advice someone's given you?
It's my husband, who's a business owner. Mm-hmm. And the best advice that he's given me is, yes, you can. You absolutely can.
I love that.
Yeah.
So good. Just those simple words, but so powerful.
Yeah. Really powerful.
Yeah. Because really and truly there are people who are hesitating to put something in action because they don't feel like they can. And I was just talking about this in another podcast with another guest, saying like, I'm not the best podcaster in the world, and I fumble through my words. I'm getting better, but I'm constantly fumbling through my words and saying ums and ahs, and but I just decided to do it. And so I know there are other people that have amazing voices, and they're just stifled because they don't believe in themselves. They don't believe they can. So I do love that. That's a great advice. Yeah. What are you loving these days, or what have you ordered from Amazon that's like rocking your world?
That's a really good one. So I recently discovered, I'm turning 50 this year, and I recently discovered, you discover these new things once you hit over 40, they just happen. Your body and you don't even notice that they're happening. And so I just noticed a week or so ago that I don't have the same eyelashes I used to have.
Right.
I literally had not noticed that my eyelashes were disappearing, and kind of freaked out that this was my new reality. And so looked up just different what could I do about that? And I found this 3D fiber lash mascara. And I love it so much.
Does it help? Does it make them look bigger?
It does. It totally does.
I'm putting it in my cart right now.
Yeah. It's 3D fiber lash mascara by Mia Adora. And it is, and I found it on someone else's top list of products. And that was one of her products. And I can't even remember who it was, and I was like, well, it was $25. I was like, I have no eyelashes. What's to lose here? So I tried it and I love it. Oh my gosh, I'm so in love with this mascara.
I need to check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, I also bought. My husband and I, we make a lot of. We cook a lot, and we often do tacos because we're in Austin, and
yes. Have to do tacos in Austin.
We constantly. So we hurt ourselves getting the pit out of avocados. So I found this Good Grips avocado slicer, and it's impossible. It's absolutely impossible to hurt yourself. It's the easiest way to get out the pit from the avocado without maiming yourself or hurting yourself or slicing your hand. It seems like such a small thing, but it's just kind of changed our world. We love it.
Nice.
When it came, we were like fighting over who was going to get to try it first. Like, we were so excited.
Yeah. Well, I'm Texan, so I grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Yeah. And when I moved here to Tennessee, we had some real sad avocados here. But that was years and years ago. But they were like sad, and they were like $1.67.
Oh, wow.
I totally remember this. And I realize now that grocery stores didn't really know how to store and handle avocados in this part of the country.
course, yeah.
And so that was that. So every time I would buy one, it would just suck. It was a horrible tasting. You know, it was like they just didn't know. It would even not. It would look ripe, but then it really wasn't, or it would just never ripe. I mean, I just don't think they knew how to store it.
Right.
What is your favorite taco place in Austin?
Oh, that's so hard. Oh,
Should
man.
I narrow it and say what's your favorite breakfast taco place?
Well, that's funny because I'm not a breakfast taco person because I come from Chicago, and that's just when I came here and everyone was eating breakfast tacos, I thought it was the weirdest thing. I was like, breakfast tacos. And I'm not a big breakfast person. I often eat what looks like dinner for breakfast.
Okay.
So, but I think my family's favorite place is, we really love Torchy's. It's because you can count on it. You're never going to be let down. And there's a place near us. I think it's called Taco. Let me see if I can pronounce it correctly. It's Taco Palo. What is it? Oh, I can't think of the name of it. But there is a place close to us where we've been getting tacos from them. Mm-hmm. And it's Taco Papalote.
Oh, yeah.
Taco House. And we have just stumbled, and it's kind of edging out Torchy's for us just a little. Because their sauces are so good. And their guacamole is, oh my gosh, so good. And their tacos are more authentic.
Yeah.
I mean, so we recently just went down the list and just ordered a bunch of different tacos for dinner one night. Mm-hmm. Pretty much had no idea what we were eating, just were eating them, and they was all good.
Wow. That's my dream. I would love to do that. Anything else from Amazon that...
Yeah. Gosh, I have a problem with Amazon. I order constantly from books and all the rest. But I recently got some paper lanterns for on top of my bookcase, just for a bit of whimsy in the house. Just these big round paper lanterns. I got them. They're like a $2.50 or something. $2.50 for these globes. But I got these little lights that you can put into the lantern to light them up, but they're remote controlled. So I don't have to climb up to turn on.
Oh, wow. I have seen those.
Yeah, and they're called wireless LED, and you get like a pack of like 4 or 5 of them, and we love them because we can just click them on. We don't have to climb up, lift up the lantern, turn it on, like flip the little switch. Nope, you just point them at the lanterns and click.
Wow.
So that's like a favorite. But our favorite thing wasn't even for us. The girl that we carpool with another student that lives near us. Well, I take both her and my daughter to the high school, and she had shared with me that she and her mom are obsessed with the TV show Friends. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's so cute that this mom and daughter are watching Friends, going through all of Friends together. And her birthday was recently, and on Amazon you can order from NBC an actual Central Perk coffee mug.
Really?
Yeah, and so it was the best gift because she was just floored that she actually had one of their cappuccino mugs. So that was a fun gift to give. And I also have a girl that we take to our church's youth group once a week, and she's from Taiwan, and she loves Pride and Prejudice. It's like her favorite book. But she said it was really hard to read because her first language is Mandarin. Mm-hmm. And so she's an exchange student. And so I was able to go on Amazon and find Pride and Prejudice in Mandarin for her. And that was just such a fun thing to be able to just find on Amazon. And
I know. I go there for everything. I have that. That's my favorite app on my phone.
I probably need to change my answer because as much as I love Pray As You Go, I don't think I would make it without Amazon.
I mean, one day we were in the mountains of Tennessee, and we were at a camping mountain store, and my son's like, "Hey, I want that for Christmas," or I can't remember what he was talking about, but it was something for camping, and I was like, "Gee, it looks really expensive," and then I was like, "Well, let me see if I can get it on Amazon because I don't really want to pack this. I don't want to buy it now, Sure enough, it was, $5 cheaper on Amazon and exact same product. So I'm like, yeah, I'm sold on it. And I keep telling, my husband, who's the budgeter of the family, of the two of us, I'm like, honey, it really does save me money. Like,
oh my God,
literally, like if I need to go and buy a dog leash and if I walk into, and it's like $12 for a dog leash. If I walk into Target to get a dog leash, I'll come out with like $50 extra, or it'll be $100 max. So you just saved yourself like $90 by me, ordering this little thing on Amazon.
So do you do Prime Now?
Yes.
That's like my new obsession too. Yeah. Like we no longer live near a Whole Foods, and so our Amazon Prime Now picks up from Whole Foods.
I'm on this new diet, so I I was on the couch not feeling well one weekend, and I just ordered a truckload of things from Whole Foods. My husband's like, "What's outside the door?" Like,
it's so beautiful.
I know. It's awesome. Yeah.
I've sent gifts that way too.
Yes.
Yeah, I primed ice cream to
no way.
a friend that was having a hard day. So we have these two girls that used to live with us for a short period of time, and they don't live far from us, but they were having a rough day. I found out that one of them had stayed home from school because she was having a rough day, and I sent her a movie and ice cream through Prime Now.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so you can if you have a girlfriend that's having a rough time, you can send her like bubble bath or
that's like, excellent.
You can use it, and so it's for the good. It's not just for me, and because I don't want to go to the store. I'm actually, being a generous person with Amazon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been so much fun, and I love that you are making space for people to have conversation, and that you are moving into what God meant for you to do in this world.
Thank you so much.
I really do believe that, and I am 100% behind you. So I can't wait to see what's next for you.
Ooh, thanks. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Marcie was a sheer delight. I really enjoyed getting to know her, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation with her. You can follow her journey on helping us all navigate racism in America on her Instagram account, Black Coffee with White Friends, or on her blog with the same name. Thanks again to our sponsor, Barbara Ann Jeter, who's a realtor here in Nashville. I'll link her information below. Would love for you to get into contact with her. Music is by Ben Sound, and don't forget to connect on Instagram. Thanks for listening, and keep rising in your story.